What's going on, everybody? Week 2 of the NFL season's here. That means it's time for episode 2 of the Hurry Up Offense. TJ Winger here with you, and joined as always by JT Crew. JT, how's it going, man?
Going good. Week 1 definitely delivered on all the hype in the off season. Got to see new people in new places. Didn't seem like anybody was really missing a beat. Some of the stars that moved. So it was a good week for sure.
And then Mason Cannon, our other co-host. Mason, how'd you enjoy week 1?
No, it was good, man. Lots of action. That Steelers-Bengals game was crazy. So bad. So sad you got to miss that one, TJ.
Yeah, the joys of work coming in at its finest moment.
Yeah, it was good. Football's back. Lived up to its expectations and more. Excited for week 2.
No doubt about it. So here to start out this episode, we're going to talk about some rhythm throws. Get us kind of comfortable here with our drive before we get into the 2-minute drill. But, obviously injuries are going to be something we talk about a lot during this segment, especially through week 1. It kind of feels like who came out, the most clean out of the first week of football, and whether it's, TJ Watt or it's Elijah Mitchell, Dak Prescott, Jamal Adams, even on Monday night. So lots of injuries, lots of star players going down, going to miss some significant time. But, I kind of open up to y'all. Mason, was there an injury that kind of changed your perspective on a team? You think it ruins their playoff chances, or did it just screw you over in fantasy? Anything that stands out?
As far as fantasy, the only player that you mentioned that I have this year is Elijah Mitchell. Let's be honest, nobody's surprised here. We just knew it was a matter of time when he was going to go down. It sucks that it was week 1. But now we are getting into who was their guy now. We have no idea. Trey Lance is obviously not the guy from what we saw. But no, I think Elijah Mitchell being out for the foreseeable future really sucks for them. And then TJ Watt, he doesn't need surgery, which is good. But the Steelers' defense was cracked out of their mind Sunday. Losing him definitely hurts. So I would say those two for sure. Dak Prescott, They've got Cooper Rush. We'll see what he's about.
Oh, get out of here with this Cooper Rush hype. I'm not here for it.
But I'll let JT.
Cooper Rush.
I'll let JT go more into that. Yeah.
I'm definitely. I think that is still. I think the Dak injury is definitely the most impactful. Just given the nature of the position and kind of how that affects the offense. I still am a big Cooper Rush fan. The man torched the Vikings last year in prime time. So definitely a Cooper Rush fan. But I think definitely he's, that's the biggest injury. And then we already touched on TJ Watt, not being out the full year, not needing surgery, that's huge. Honestly, though, even the 6 weeks that he's going to be out, I think the Steelers defense is going to be just fine. I don't think they're going to take too big of a step back. I think TJ Watt's great, but I don't know. That unit just played so well on Sunday. I don't think one player missing from it, even though it is TJ Watt and he's kind of crazy catalyst. I still think that they'll be fine.
I mean, I hope you're right. And I mean, part of that's Mike Tomlin, right? Like something about the way he coaches and leads that team. They're just always prepared and ready for whatever happens. And you have Cam Hayward there. So not like they're out of talent, but yeah, down TJ Watt. My hopes for my Steelers are at a pretty low point. I don't know if it's ever been this low. But talking more about some of those other injuries, Dak Prescott, this feels like a Jimmy Garoppolo spot here. I didn't know I was joined today by the president and vice president of the Cooper Rush Stan Club. But that's good to know. Put that on y'all's resumes. But I think this is a Jimmy G spot here for sure. Now, granted, Trey Lance did not look good in week 1, so that could be a little bit of a tricky situation San Francisco has to navigate through. But also, I kind of hit on it a moment ago. Jamal Adams, hey, good for the Seahawks for getting a win. But that defense is still not great. And when you take away one of the most talented pieces on that side of the ball, I'm just that much more concerned. So we'll find out more severity and what the timetable is, but that could be a bad one that comes back to roost. But let's go ahead and start talking about this week's game. So again, if you're new to this, welcome to it. We're talking island games, so Thursday, Sunday, Monday Night Football, and then 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock game. If you're interested in our entire picks against the spread for the week, someone here might have had the best record. Yours truly, of course, coming out on top week 1, but you can see our picks against the spread with the link down in the description. Also, join the league. We'll have a competition at the end of the year. I'll do a giveaway. If anybody has a better record than one of the 3 of us, comes out on top of the league, we'll do a giveaway. We'll reward you for your efforts. But before we jump in this game, be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video. And also, if you're right here, want to see more football content, just hit that big red subscribe button. And then tell me your takeaways and thoughts from week 1, but also some of your favorite locks, props, and matchups going into week 2. Love to have your thoughts. It's a conversation around here, so give me your takeaways down below. All right, Now let's start talking Thursday Night Football, and oh my God, I am ready for it. Every AFC West matchup this year, I'm ready to run through a brick wall to see it, just because this division's yoked. But we get, in my opinion, the two best teams in the division, Chargers and Chiefs. And I have a myriad of thoughts about where this game could go. But JT, I'll open it up to you. Where do you stand on this game right now? Is at 4.5, and at the time of this recording, that's already moved from 3.5. So by the time you're seeing this, it could change it that much more. But right now, Chiefs 4.5, big week one for both sides. But JT, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm probably staying away from this one. 4.5 still feels like a funky number. I think both teams, it's kind of a similar situation to last week. Rams, Bills, although the score ended up being, a huge spread, I still think that they're similar roster to roster. You look at Chargers, Chiefs, kind of a similar situation. I definitely think that we'll see the Chiefs struggle a little bit more on offense when they are facing this Chargers defense. I just see a lot more playmakers on the Chargers defensive side, as well as a lot more speed on their side than what they faced week one. So expect the Chiefs to kind of come down to earth a little bit. But the Chargers, I watched a lot of the Chargers-Raiders game, and something just kind of stood out to me. It was just a weird vibe that I was getting from the ball, like the touch distribution. So Mike Williams played 93% of snaps and had 2 receptions. That makes no sense. We know he's inconsistent, but with 93% of snaps and 2 touches is absurd. And then
poor guy you just gave out a contract to at $20 million a year too, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, no, and then we look at Austin Eckler. He's definitely worth that workhorse role. He's great. He's fantastic. Great balance. Good power for his size. Good twitchy ability and working in and out of the holes, even in between the tackles. And he saw 49% of the snaps. Like, what are we doing? Yeah. It baffles me. I don't know. So something's kind of weird going on with like the offensive, substitutions, kind of the distribution of touches out in LA. So that kind of concerns me about their offense. I'm probably not playing any betting angle. I'm just kind of anxious to see and kind of how that looks this weekend or this week. And then also just like, I don't know, it's going to be a great game to watch. Might as well just kind of sit back and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is an awesome way to start the week. And you kind of hit on some of the changes I think you'll see for Kansas City. Pat Mahomes has never been blitzed more in a single game, percentage-wise. The Cards brought pressure 54% of the time, or somewhere thereabout last week. So that's ridiculous. And Pat Mahomes had 4 touchdowns against the blitz. He shreds that up. A little bit of a geeky reference here, but if anybody saw Doctor Strange 2, what Wanda does to Reed Richards in that movie, that's Pat Mahomes against the blitz. He'll shred it to pieces. So you're going to see a completely different look here. You're not going to see a lot of man coverage. You're not going to see a lot of blitz. It's going to be 2 high shells, cover 4, cover 2, keep the ball in front of you. And it's going to force Kansas City to go to the air yak guys. You just signed a Juju Smith-Schuster. You just drafted a Sky Moore. You're going to have to pivot how you use Travis Kelce. So that change is what I've been dying to see. I love, last week we got answers to questions, but we didn't get all the answers. This is another one of those questions I need an answer to. How does Kansas City, after being shut down by these 2 high looks last year, what's their counter? And to that point, going against Brandon Staley, who's one of the figureheads you think of with this 2 high movement across the league. So I like the Chargers for that reason. And also, I think this is going to be a series split. So kind of similar to what we'll talk about with another game just here in a moment. If it's going to be a series split, give me the upset early. I think just things are a little bit more variable early on as teams are settling in. So I think the Chiefs will ultimately split this series with the Chargers, but because it's week 2, it's early on. The Chiefs are still figuring out that wide receiver room and how to counteract those 2 high looks. Give me the Chargers upset early. And then last thing, JT, to your note, I don't know how Joe Lombardi continues to have this job because he continues to make me unsure about the direction of that offense. And when you have a Justin Herbert, 2 receivers making $20+ million, Austin Eckler is a fantasy dream, but also just like a quarterback dream with his pass catching ability. It just makes me baffled by the rotation, the play designs, all that stuff. Joe Lombardi has been questionable, but he is related to the greatest or second greatest coach in NFL history, so he's going to get a job. But anyways, Mason, let me hear your thoughts on this one. Do you have a side you're betting for this one, or are you just enjoying the game? And who do you like coming out on top, Chiefs or Chargers?
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not sure if I will bet it, but I probably will end up betting it. Let's be honest. Herbert, we endorse it.
Yeah.
Yes, Herbert, Mahomes, week 2. Let's get it. I'm here for it. But I do like the Chargers here. Getting 4.5 points on the road. I'll take that any day. I am a Justin Herbert buyer. I am a believer. He is that man. JT, I know how you feel about him, but I did watch him play. He was making passes, he was making throws, he was doing anything and everything that you needed to see from a QB1. But Pat Mahomes did not go anywhere, so that does make me nervous. Pat Mahomes was still Pat Mahomes, even without Tyreek Hill. But yeah, I am leaning Chargers. Not sure if I will bet it, but I do like the Chargers here. So we will see what happens.
I think the value at 4.5 is probably on the Charger side. From a straight betting perspective, it's just not something I want to put my money on the line against Mahomes very frequently. So I'll probably.
That's also fair.
And it's also one of these things where I might not touch this until things are locked and closed in, because if it was 3.5 just a couple hours ago, now it's 4.5. I don't know. Maybe the Chiefs' money, maybe there's some sharps out there that move this line even more against the Chargers. So I might wait and see that. But also, one more note I want to get in here before we move on to our next game. Latest update about J.C. Jackson. I think he could be just one of those playmakers. It feels like the Staley defense is going to prioritize creating turnovers, and J.C. Jackson is one of the best at doing that. Trending in the positive direction, exciting outlook. Can LA get him out on the field in a short week? If so, I feel that much better about taking the Chargers. But let's leave this game, move on to our second of the slate, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. And, I've been pretty high on the Saints leading into the season through my offseason content. If they stay healthy, I think this roster is as good as it gets across the league. And to see the wide receivers shine like they did last week has me that much more excited. So it was a close battle with the Falcons. They fell behind early, ultimately made the comeback down 16 in the fourth quarter. But, at a 2.5-point spread, Mason, where are you leaning this one? Do you think the Bucs get it done? I know Brady and Tampa have had their problems with New Orleans, but do you think Tampa gets it done? Do they get that first win of the regular season against Nola?
Yeah, so we all know Brady has struggled as of late against the Saints as a Buck. But I watched both of these teams a fair amount. Week 1, the Saints looked god-awful. They just looked discombobulated.
The first half was rough. Yeah.
First half was rough. I do not know how they came out with the win there, let's be honest. But yeah.
You're a Patriots fan. You can't ask that question. You're a Patriots fan.
Yes. But back to the Saints. One name we did not really hear, and I know he got banged up, was Alvin Kamara. He wasn't even really used. I didn't see much of him in that offense on Sunday. So I think he turns it around. I also think Tom Brady and the Bucs turn it around offensively, only scoring 19 points week 1 against Dallas. So I'm going to go with the over 44 here. I think both teams put points on the board pretty easily, and I think 44 is too low for both of these teams. So yeah, even with Brady struggling against the Saints, I think he throws balls in the end zone. He was not able to get many touchdowns week 1. I think he gets it back on track. I also think the Saints keep it somewhat close. So I do like the over 44 here.
That's a hot take right there. These are two of the best defenses in the league, in my opinion. At least when it comes to names on paper, it's stacked, but also division games can get weird. My thing with the Saints is, and we kind of even saw this with the Bengals, I went back and I did watch some of it. The Bengals in the second half look drastically different than the first half. And some of these teams that don't do a whole lot in the preseason, I think it takes a half to kind of get acclimated with it. I think the Bengals turned it on in a big way in the second half, and obviously New Orleans did the same thing. I'm kind of in the same spot I was with the Chargers, where I think this is a series split. So give me that upset early. And New Orleans at home, I just buy the way Marshawn Lattimore plays against these big body wide receivers. It makes no sense. It makes no sense that when you play against somebody bigger than you, you outperform them. But for some reason, Marshawn Lattimore has that in his tool bag. So I'm buying into that. Dennis Allen has a great track record, especially against, Byron Leftwich, Tom Brady. So I'm going to say that rides out. And, again, if I'm going to take an upset in this series this season, give me the one early. And again, I'm super encouraged by the way the wide receivers played. 100+ yards for Jarvis Landry. Nice big catch late for Chris Olave. And then 2 massive touchdown grabs for Michael Thomas. So excited to see what he does. Haven't won a handful of fantasy teams, so I might be a little biased there. But that being said, I think so much here points towards the Bucs, and I don't want to overthink it because I know that's what JT's about to yell at me saying I am doing. But I'm going to overthink it. I'm going to go with New Orleans continuing their trend of success against Brady, and I'm going to say it's a series split with New Orleans getting the first of the 2 meetings. But JT, tell me why I'm overthinking this one.
All right, so let's think about it, right? Let's take a step back. We look at who touches the ball every snap, right? The quarterback's going to touch the ball every snap. Who makes a decision every snap, aside from handing the ball off, right?
Sure.
You have one of the worst historically decision makers in the history of the league in Jameis, as far as starters go. Historically, I'm actually a Jameis fan. But just numbers wise, historically, he's not the best decision maker when it comes to crab legs and throwing passes. So, but you compare that and then the best decision maker at the quarterback position in the history of the NFL, and that's point blank. I mean, I'm not necessarily a Brady stan by any means, but the reason that he's considered the GOAT, it's not because of his arm, it's not because of accuracy. While those are all great and they're definitely like superior to most, it's the decision making that got him where he's at. And to me, yeah, it's just like, don't overthink it. One of the worst decision makers at the position versus the best ever at the position. 3 points, come on now. And it's moved to 2.5, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, right.
That it's moving towards the Saints, but I really like Mason's play of the over there. Because I know, TJ, just like you said, I think that's kind of how the only reason we're getting it at 44 is because of the defenses and how those defenses are. And on paper, those defenses are fantastic. But I also see what Mason's talking about both offenses. I think they have an extra gear that they're going to hit this week. And 44, like, we're lucky to get a number that low in any game, especially a number that low with the receivers in this game and the quarterbacks in this game. I don't know. I'd really like the overplay. I didn't even think about that, but since you said it, it's definitely.
Yeah, I locked that in.
I'll probably have to.
I locked that in yesterday.
I bet. Yeah. No, that's a nice bet. I might have to hop on that as well.
2 games in, we already got somebody tailing the other one. There we go. That's awesome. Also, can we talk about Julio Jones looking like Julio Jones? Because, oh my God, if he plays like that for Tampa, good Lord, just go ahead and stop the season. They might not lose a game this year. That was insane. And then the one last thing, Mason, you were saying you're anticipating Brady playing better than last week. But again, you're a Patriots fan. Sometimes it's a slow start. There were a couple of years in New England where it was like 2-2, and you're like, but why are the Patriots 2-2 after the first 4 weeks? So sometimes it feels like Brady takes a minute, and I could see that being another reason why New Orleans steals this one. But to your point, JT, and then we'll move off this one. There's not going to be another time this year where you get the Bucs at 2.5. Now, granted, they do play the Bills later on this year, so we'll see what the seasons entail. But 2.5 is as good a line as you're going to get for a Tampa Bay team this season. So why not go ahead and take advantage of it, even if it is against the Saints? All right, let's leave this one. Head on into Game 3, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this game felt way more exciting to put on paper, as I did this before Sunday's Week 1 slate. It's changed a ton. And even over the last couple hours, this line's moved from 7 to 8.5 Bengals favored. And I still don't think it's enough. I think this ends up being 10. If, I'm sorry, I am pandering your boy Cooper Rush here. If it's Cooper Rush versus Joe Burrow, that might be the widest talent gap we've seen a game this year. If it's not number one, it's one of the biggest talent disparities between two QBs. Cooper Rush is buns. Joe Burrow, after last week, 5 turnovers. This dude's going scorched earth. I'm taking the Bengals. There's not enough points you can put behind it. The only thing we learned about Cincy last week is if they turn the ball over 5 times, get sacked 7 times, have a kick blocked, 1 miss, and they don't challenge the Jamar Chase play at the goal line, they could lose. That's the only thing I learned. If all that breaks their way, they can lose. So I'm taking Cincinnati, but it is interesting if Dak was playing this game, 2 teams who start 0-1 and need a win because of the division they play in, what type of intensity do we get week 2 of the year? But like I said, Joe Burrow, Cooper Rush, I don't need to say anything more. But Mason, let me hear where you stand on this one. And, good luck trying to sell me on Cooper Rush, but I'm ready to hear this.
No, I'm going to leave that part to JT, but Cooper Rush is not, he's not terrible, but he's not Dak Prescott. So I am all over the Bengals 8.5 as well. I still think they covered that with ease. All I was saying was Cooper Rush is not terrible. That's all. But we'll see Sunday, I guess. But yes, exactly what you were talking about with the Bengals last week, all of those turnovers, and still, hanging in there. Like, they could have easily won that game last week. They had multiple chances. Last week was when, NFL teams needed a kicker. So we know how important that is now. But, Bengals have a week to prepare, get things rolling again. They know the Cowboys do not have a QB1. I think it's a no-brainer. Bengals 8.5. But also, if you watched this video last week, please take my picks with a grain of salt, because I do not think I got a single one right. So
you did all right. I think I went 6-4, and the both of y'all went or something like that in the picks league. Go in the description. Don't have to check the link. But hey, you guys did both all right. You guys were right at 500 if I remember. My memory serves. But all right, JT, what do you think about this one? And don't try to sell me on Rush. It's not happening.
Yeah, no. I like your pitches. I think they're good. 8.5, I would probably lean Bengals, but how I'm going to play this, I'm going to wait. I think the public's going to pour in on the Bengals. I think, and we talked about this off air, but I think, it's going to push to around 10 points. At the 10-point mark, I actually like the Cowboys there. Just because I think it's going to come to a point where they're just going to slow the game down, try and limit possessions as much as possible, have the game come down to 1 or 2 possessions. Hopefully they get lucky with a turnover, a strip sack, a tip ball in the air, something kind of, falls their way and they're able to run it out and score on the last possession. Something crazy, right? That's their only, let's be real. You look at the 2 rosters, their situations right now, their only opportunity to win this game is to limit possessions and hope something goes right. I kind of want to play, like I said, wait for the spread to move towards the Bengals. Then I'll probably play the Cowboys. If not, I probably won't touch it, at least spread-wise. And then also, I'm going to be looking into Zeke's rushing yards total. Yeah. Also, his rush attempts. I think those could be higher than what we think. Even though they'll probably be trailing, I don't think they're going to go away from it. I think they're just going to keep pounding the rock, see what happens. So that's kind of the angles I'm playing.
I think you're spot on, and I think the Bengals will invite them running the ball, right? I can see the Bengals getting up by 2 scores and saying, all right, you want to chew the clock on your own and run it with Pollard and run it with Zeke? Cool, works for us. We'll go home quicker, And that actually leads me to a good point, something I was going to ask Mason. If this line gets out to 10, does that change any of what you're thinking here? Because then you're talking key numbers of 3, 7, and 10. So if this game gets to 10, I might change it on Sunday morning and flip it over to Dallas or even wider than that, because we do have games beyond 10 this week, which is bonkers. But that being said, if this game becomes Cowboys plus 10.5, let's just say, are you going Dallas or are you sticking with Cincy, Mason?
I would probably lean Dallas. Like even 8.5 is sketchy for me.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's tough. I might have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's really easy for us to say the Bengals are a better team when the Cowboys just lost their franchise quarterback. 2 teams heading in different directions for sure. But that being said, when it comes to that betting perspective, I think 10 is a really hard number to bet against. And the picks I haven't made in our league yet are the ones with double-digit spreads, because I just don't know how confident I feel and the team I think will win. But leaving this game, let's move on to game number 4, and that is the Green Bay Packers. Another 10-point spread here. At the moment, this could change even more. Packers favored by 10 against the Chicago Bears, over/under at 43. Man, 2 teams that obviously have very different week 1s. Upset win for Chicago, disappointing loss for the Packers. And I'll start with you, JT, as the man who is a Vikings fan, but somehow Aaron Rodgers' biggest supporter, and Cooper Rush apparently. Let me hear your thoughts on that game week 1. Do you think this is a bigger disaster than 2012? What do you think about that secondary, specifically covering Justin Jefferson? That to me was the most alarming thing I saw out of week 1. But kind of give me your thoughts on that Vikings-Packers game, and then where you feel the Packers are at going into week 2.
Yeah, going into week 2, I think they're going to be fine against the Bears. I think that they kind of win a slow, kind of controlled game where they're never out of control, stuff like that. However, just to answer your question about the rest of the season, I think the Packers are in trouble. I think offensively, that's kind of where they're going to struggle. I think the defense will figure it out. There were a lot of blown coverages, mostly just like communication based. Really wasn't. If you look at it, like Justin Jefferson had a great day, but it's not like he was like torching people because they just didn't have the talent. A lot of it was literally just like miscommunication, kind of some lousy like back end coverages that he was just kind of running free on, and then some lazy tackling, which is kind of expected week 1. So I think their defense is going to clear it up. What's not going to be cleared up is not having wide receivers on an NFL football team. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. There's just no way they can right the ship on that. I'm the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, ironically, that you're going to find probably, just because I know how well he controls the game. Great decision maker. He throws the best ball I've ever seen. And it doesn't matter. Like, you can throw the ball, as we saw. You can throw the best ball you've seen. That was the best throw of this weekend.
Talking about Christian Watson?
Yes, to Christian Watson. First play of the game, throws an absolute dime.
Doink.
And he, like, dropping something in stride is hilarious. Like, it wasn't like a diving catch. It wasn't like over the shoulder. My man dropped it in stride.
Yeah.
Right in the breadbasket. It was just crazy. But I think, that being said, they still got 2 studs at running back. And the Bears are just not good still. The Bears are just kind of at the bottom of the league. They got away with they got away with basically a swamp win, which will happen. So, but yeah, no, decent, better weather game. Rodgers is just gonna outduel Fields. It's not gonna be close. I think it's just gonna be kind of a boring game. Betting angles, kind of like the overs for Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon or both. I think they're gonna touch the ball a ton. It's just gonna be one where the Packers like I said, control the game from the jump. Kind of right the ship, at least go 1-1, and then try to figure out their passing game from there.
Yeah, I can see that. And 10 points is a lot, but disappointing week 1 last year for Aaron Rodgers. He follows it up by throwing 4 tuds to the worst team in the division with the Detroit Lions. And now he's got something kind of similar in my eyes. The Bears, like you said, won that swamp game against a guy who's never started a week 1 game before. Now you're going against Aaron Rodgers with a lot to prove. So that's kind of scary. Now, that being said, I don't know who's catching these touchdowns. Maybe it's Robert Dunyan having his first career 3-tutty game. Maybe. But yeah, I just got to go with Rodgers here. And he also announced last year in Chicago that he's a part owner of the Bears. So gotta roll with him in Chicago. If he's not in Green Bay, Chicago might be the next best place for him to have a bounce back showing. So yeah, I'm concerned about the wide receiver spot. Like I said, the secondary was my bigger concern, considering Joe Barry's second year DC. All the secondary did was add a Jair Alexander, top 3 corner in the league. So it feels like there shouldn't have been those hiccups, considering the continuity is still there and then just getting more talented. So that was a little bit of a concern there for me, but I think that is not going to be any sort of an issue because there's no one in Justin Jefferson's level of play, not even close, not in the same area code when it comes to wide receiver talent. I like Darnell Mooney, but he ain't sniffing Justin Jefferson. So even if they have busted coverages, it's a little less problematic, not giving up 200 yards to maybe the best receiver in the game. So I like Green Bay here in a lot of different ways. And I'm also just super low on the Bears. So they still won week 1, but I think they're going to hit the ground pretty hard this week. Mason, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I don't see the Bears winning this week.
Yeah.
Literally squeaked out a win last week. Don't know how still. But, I'm not going to bet this, honestly, because to y'all's points exactly, the Packers have no receivers. The Bears have no receivers. So I just don't know anything about these two teams yet. But I do think if I were to lean, I would lean Packers. Might tease it at 6.5 with something else. I just
6.5 I would play. I'd play 6.5 to 10. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, 10. I don't know about that. Week 2, I don't know, with the new Packers team. I don't know. But I do lean Aaron Rodgers in the Packers. But like you guys were talking about, boring game. They control the pace. I do like the Aaron Jones props you were talking about. I will probably tail that. That is something that I think might hit. So yeah, that's where I stand.
I can see his receptions hitting too.
Yeah.
I think they've got to start splitting him out wide. That's their only option at this point. You got to create a receiver with the roster you have at this point. Because they've got to do something. And, Rodgers talked about it all offseason. Him and AJ Dillon are going to be on the field at the same time sometimes. And I think that's going to that's got to be the norm, really. That's got to be their standard package that they come out in. So.
And Matt LaFleur has not been perfect, but he's also won 13 games every year he's been in Green Bay so far. And one of the things I think he does well is, you take the Devontae Adams games he missed last year against Arizona. He finds ways to make somebody a playmaker. He knows how to maximize what he does have in front of him. So that's a good point. And I think this is a teasable game. If you took it down to 4, you're getting through the key numbers of us, obviously off of 10 and then through 7. So there's some value there. And then, there's a few other legs, I think, from the rest of the betting week that I think you could hit with the teaser there. Or we also talked about an over earlier with the Bucs Saints. So you could think that down to 38, hit the over then. So I think there's a couple of good routes there, but this is probably a prop game for me. Like those Aaron Jones props, Packers sacks against that Bears offensive line, depending how crazy of a number we're talking here. I'll take Rashawn Gary against whoever the fuck is lined up against him. So that's an easy one for me. Anyways, let's move on to game number 5. Final one we'll talk about. This one hits home for JT. It's his Minnesota Vikings after an awesome week 1 win, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'll get this quickly out of the way because I think we've talked about this before, but I think the Eagles are this year's Cardinals or this year's Steelers of 2 years ago, where their record is inflated. They're at that 12 win mark. For Pittsburgh, it was 12. Last year, it was 11 for Arizona. I got the Cardinals winning 13 games in my season predictions, but I don't think they're that good necessarily. But I think that then leads to them being bounced in the first round. I think they're that team this year where Arizona was the last unbeaten, bounced in the first round. Pittsburgh goes 12-4, gets bounced in the first round. So I kind of think that's the Eagles this year. And I know you guys don't like AJ Brown, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this to start. 10 for 155. Did he change your mind at all week 1 in Philadelphia?
I'm an AJ Brown. I like AJ Brown. I think Mason beats AJ Brown. I'm a believer in AJ Brown. I think he's definitely good. I kind of see him as like a DK Metcalf with slightly different skill set, but pretty similar kind of.
I mean, teammates at Ole Miss, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. But okay, cool. Well, so looking at this game, where are y'all at betting perspective, or even just like straight up? Eagles, Vikings, these feel like two teams that are in the playoff conversation. Who you got coming out on top? We don't even have to worry about the betting angle. I think the game's good enough to just talk the game here.
Vikings got to. I think it's to me it's a no-brainer. The Vikings, especially betting wise. Obviously, I'm biased, big Vikings fan. But I know you said don't do betting wise, but dude, as a 2.5 point underdog, that's just crazy to me. The Eagles not that they squeaked out a win over the Lions. They were in control of the game despite the kind of closer score that ended up being. I don't think that was really ever in like super question. But I really look at the matchup too. As far as we're playing on defense, I don't think our offense is going to be quite as crisp as it was against the Packers. I think we really didn't miss a beat. I think we'll see kind of us come back down to earth a little bit on offense. But on defense, I think that Jalen Hurts might struggle a little bit against our defense more than you would think. We got Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter coming off the edges. These guys are freak athletes. They're not just like good pass rushers. They're great edge setters, tremendous speed from both sides. Also, with us playing more of a shell scheme defense, kind of a deeper shell scheme than you usually see with the Mike Zimmer era. We've kind of moved to that deep shell scheme where you're going to have to take the dink and dunks underneath, and then we're going to come up, make tackles, and you're going to have to take your 5 to 7 yard chunks all game. And Jalen Hurts, to me, just doesn't strike me as that guy that's going to like take what the defense gives him for an entire 4 quarters. I think he's going to try and force a couple things downfield, hold on to the ball a little bit too long, wait for things to develop downfield that aren't going to develop, run around a little too much in the backfield, throw a couple picks. I think he throws at least 2 picks this game. And I think the Vikings win it just on that. I think it's going to be close though. I don't think I wouldn't like push it to the Vikings -6.5, anything like that.
Sure.
But I would definitely lean Vikings as a dog. I just don't see us being an underdog. That's crazy to me.
Well, I think there's some interesting notes there. And going back to a betting perspective here, maybe the interceptions prop for Hurts could be one you hit then. And then also, with those shell schemes, A.J. Brown is great yards after catch type of guy. So his receiving prop could be an interesting one, at least for yards. And then Dallas Goedert.
I think he'll hit the over. I think A.J. Brown's going to have a great day stats-wise. And if Jalen Hurts does what he's supposed to, A.J. Brown should have well over 100 yards receiving. And then I think against this scheme, for sure.
And I think Dallas Goedert could have some similar success, middle of the field, taking those checkdowns if Hurts takes them. So I can see Goedert being another guy. Maybe the receptions total or receiving yards is in play. But last note, and then I'm going to ask you, Mason, where you stayed on this game. Devonta Smith with a fat goose egg last week. And I'm kind of excited because it came against Jeff Okudah largely, and I'm ready for this guy to finally break out as the top 3 pick that he was. But man, Devonta Smith, I need to see some signs of life here, or is he just kind of gone by the wayside as A.J. Brown's there? So another question I needed an answer for week 2. But Mason, where are you sitting on this one? Do you like the Eagles? Do you like the Vikings? Any bets? Any props that you like here?
I will start with the A.J. Brown dilemma. Part of the reason why I was down on him, or am still down on him, however you want to view it, could have been, his quarterback play in Tennessee. Now he has Jalen Hurts. He did look much better. Stats can prove it. So we will see. He will probably be his true number 1 this year. Devonta Smith, goose egg last week. A little surprising. We'll see if he can get back on track this week. But I do like the Vikings here, underdog, on the road. I do like the Vikings here. Not much to say. You guys hit on a lot of points that I was going to talk about. But yeah, Vikings money line, dude. That's all. That's all, man.
I can see it. And I can see it. And I think from that perspective onward, it makes such an interesting, compelling argument, because I think whoever wins this game, their coach might be the front runner for coach of the year, right? Because if Kevin O'Connell has the Vikings at 2-0, and that offense looks great, I mean, that's all anybody's going to want to talk about. Or if it's the other way around and Nick Sirianni and the Eagles put up another 30 points, it's Sirianni in that spot. So I think from the national rhetoric perspective, I think this game carries a lot of levity, and obviously it's Monday Night Football, so it should come with something like that. But yeah, man, I'm pumped up to see this. Also, can Pat Pete, we talked about that Christian Watson play earlier. Can Pat Pete hold up any more at the NFL level? Because rookie's making you look that bad. Now Watson's fast, but Yeah, that was kind of a tough look there for an aging vet. So all great stuff there, but we're going to move on to our last segment, the 2-minute drill. I'm getting the timer up and ready to roll now. So this is where we give our locks of the week. All three of us came up short last week. So it's time for us to exchange the, share the sugar, if you will. We got a bounce back week here for everyone here. I'm actually going to go with the play that we were just talking about. I'll tease, going back-to-back weeks with the teaser here. This could haunt me here, but I'll take the Packers down to -4, and I'll take that over-under total for the Saints-Bucs game down to 38, hit the over there. So over 38 points in that teaser, and Packers by 4 against Chicago in a revenge game of sorts, bounce-back game for Rodgers and Cruz. So that's my lock of the week. JT, what you got?
Yeah, lock of the week for me is going to be Steelers money line over the Pats. Sorry, Mason. To me, it's just, I don't know. I love Bill Belichick. I think he's great. It's just there's only so much you can do with the roster that they have. Steelers couldn't have looked better last week. Offensively, they didn't look like they weren't world beaters, but they were pretty solid on offense. Obviously, the defense was stellar last week. I just don't see Mac Jones moving the ball much against the Steelers defense, even without TJ Watt, like I said before. And I think right now the Steelers are a 1-point dog, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's basically a pick 'em. And I'm, Steelers money lines. That's going to be my kind of pick of the week there.
All right, Mason, what you got?
So I'm going to go Raiders over the Cardinals.
Okay.
Raiders 5.5. I think Raiders get it done at home this week. Cardinals did not look good at all last week. Raiders, kind of had that game up for grabs for most of that game. I'm a big Raider guy this year. I'm all in on the Raiders. I do think they win with ease, so I'm going to go Raiders 5.5. And I'm also going to tail TJ's lock of the week. I really like the Packers -4 and the Bucs Saints over 38, so I will also be tailing that.
I'll probably tail both of y'all's locks. I really like both picks that y'all have, to be honest. The teaser, and I'm also higher on the Raiders this year. Also not a big Kyler Murray fan at all, so I think the Raiders get it done for sure.
Isn't the COD beta coming out this week too?
Oh yeah, he's in trouble.
Yeah, you might want to move this out to 7.5 or something. You got to get to that line.
Kyler Murray's going to be on the sticks, man. He doesn't care about football. That's why they put the film study in his contract. So
that's awesome. Hey, well, we owe the viewers. We got to have a bounce back week. We went 0-1, all three of us last week, but
3 for 3 this week.
Yeah,
gotta have.
We were just playing.
Yeah, it was week 1 for everyone.
We're making sure you guys are watching. Yeah.
They had us in the first half, but this is where we bounce back. Well, cool. Well, hey, thanks, guys, so much for joining me. I appreciate y'all taking some time out of your day and talking week 2 football with me. Appreciate you guys coming on. You guys can obviously follow JT and Mason on Twitter. That's right below their names there. So before we get things out of here, Mason, I did want an update from you. Your Survivor League. How's this going? I know you didn't pick the 49ers or the Titans last week, so you should be in pretty good shape here.
Yeah, so let me pull it up. So I'm new to this year, first year. 775 entries down to 302 after the first week. So only 302 entries are left. That tells you anything. So I did pick the Ravens last week. So that is one game I did get right. So yeah, still alive. Now that I picked the Ravens last week, I cannot pick the Ravens anymore moving forward.
I'd stay in the division though. Give me Cincy. I'd take Cincy this week. Yeah, jump on that.
The 2 teams I'm leaning this week are the Rams, or who was the other team? Help me out here.
Well, it sounds like you like the Raiders this week. Could have gone that route.
Could go Raiders. There's one more. Wasn't the Packers though.
Packers. You talk about?
I would like the Packers. I think.
It was our favorite team from last night. The Broncos.
Oh, the Broncos on a bounce back.
Yeah, so I'm leaning Broncos or Rams here, so I'm not too sure. But yeah, still alive.
Those are just, you stay alive as long as they win the game, right? There's no spread.
Yes, you're just picking the game straight up, no spread. All they got to do is win.
That is spicy. Yeah, hopefully the Broncos and Nathaniel Hackett kind of have their life together this upcoming week, because that was rough to watch on Monday night. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me hear your takeaways and your thoughts down below in the comments section. That's going to do it for us here in this video, but give me your locks of the week, your favorite thing that we talked about. Is there a game that you're really excited to see, matchup? Anything you have to say, it's conversation. I respond to every comment. So let's talk about week 2 in the NFL down in the comments section. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button and help us out a ton. If you're new around here, want to see more of this series and more football content in general, just hit that big red subscribe button. Once again, for JT, Mason, my name's TJ, and until next week, we are signing off.